Okay, we're up to Daf Chavav Amid Aleph. We're in this sugya of kinyanim. Yesterday we saw how you koina behema daka and behema gasa, and now we're discussing how do you koina non-living things, right? And non-living things. Now we know already. We know that you koina karka with keser shtar v'chazaka. We've had it multiple times. Where is the source for it? It says the Mishnah on Daf Chavav Amid Aleph. Nechasim sheyesh lehem achrayis. What exactly is the chasim sheyesh lemachrayis? Says Rashi, hainu karkois. That's land. Shachrayis kol adam haloive va'anoishe bechaveru aleim. Anyone who borrows or lends to his friend, his das is on the karka. Why? The fisha kaimin va'oimdim, because they're there. They're there to insure your loan. A loan you need it. Bank gives you money, a mortgage. They have your house. They have to insure their loan. They want property. Property is always there. It doesn't move. The fikach nismachim aleim, therefore you say them. So that's the chashim sheishim achrayis. It's responsible for business. It's responsible for loans and mechira and everything. So maybe that's karka, and it's nikna b'keser shtar chazaka, and we'll see how that is. Rashi tells us what chazaka is. It's not necessary to tell us keser shtar, or that's obvious. Chazaka is rafik beipurta. He works it a little bit. A daishan mitzri, he walks around to survey the borders. Or he goes in and opens the gate or closes it, paratz kolshu, that will be chazaka. He shows bilis, an act of bilis. Next in the Mishnah, shein lemachrayis, the chasim shein lemachrayis, that's metaltalin, that's movable objects. A nickname ela b'mishicha, they only could be acquired with mishicha. Now says the Ran, it's not mute hagba or mesira, ela it's mute kesef, right? Shtar b'chazaka, right? So in other words, when it says over here, a nikta b'mishicha, literally, it's say the only way to acquire movables is with mishicha, and that's not true. You could, as we saw yesterday, fellas, in the ritva, you can acquire with hagba, and you can acquire removals from mesira. That you're saying mishicha over here is lafuke kesef. You can't acquire movables with kesef of either deraisa according to Rabbi Reish Lakish or the Rabbanon according to Rabbi Yochanan. Again, famous machlokes we'll see in Hazav, and we'll allude to it today. So therefore, when it says Mashiach over here, it's not to preclude only other kinyonim in metaltlin. Who adin Masira, who adin Hagbah. It's to go ahead and exclude kesef, that you can't use kesef, right? That you can't use kesef or shtar or chazaka, right? None of these things would work. So another din. I buy Mashicha, because it says the Ran, that was the norm. The more normal thing for metaltalin was Mashicha. The Chashim Shein Machrayis, nickname in the Chashim Shein Machrayis. You could acquire metaltalin with karka, right? Bekeseb shtar v'chazaka. This is called fellas kinyan agav. If you're purchasing from somebody karka, in addition, you're purchasing metaltalin, even though keseb shtar v'chazaka do not work by metaltalin, you will acquire them agav the karka. Since I'm acquiring the karka, I'm going to acquire in one swoop. I'll acquire the metaltalin as well. The Gemara will have a shaila: do you need the metaltalin to be on the karka at the time of the kinyan, or can they be in two separate locales? They don't have to be in the same spot. Finally, the halacha is that what ein nishboyed al hakarkois. There's no nishba. There's no shvur al karka. Because why? Because it's not movable. It's a limud that the English point al tekdesha is English point al karkois. So, however, there's a type of shvua that you would be able to when it's similar to agav. How does agav work? I'm going to schlep the metaltalin agav the karka. Over here, I'm going to schlep the karka agav the metaltalin. If let's say for a person goes and says you owe me $100, he goes, you owe 50, and he goes, that piece of land is mine. He goes, it's not yours. So you could go ahead and agav the shvua moedim mixes on the metaltalin. You'd be able to schlep the shvua in on the karka. This is known as gilgal shvua. It's kind of funny. It's ironically the opposite of agav. Agav, you're getting the metaltalin agav the karka. Over here, you're getting the shvua is karka agav the metaltalin. Interesting. Says the Gemara. Bekesef minolan. How do you know kesef is kind of karka? Amar chizkiya amakra. Now here's the background before we get to the quote. Background is that the Bnei Yisrael is going into Golus, but Yirmiyahu wants to show Bnei Yisrael that the land's not going to remain desolate, and we're going to come back to the land. Now, what's the raya? Yirmiyahu was kind of a piece of karka from his cousin or his uncle Hanamel, who's a relative of his Hanamel. He was kind of from him, and in Yirmiyahu Lamed Beis, the pasuk is describing how that kinyan of the agav took place, of karka took place, and here's what it says: Sados bakesef yiknu, sados bakesef they should acquire, the kosev basefer, and you should write it down in a sefer, the chosim and sign it. So what do we see? We see that you can acquire karka sados bakesef yiknu. Now, given you druthers, if you'd have a choice between a Torah proper or the Navi to learn out a kinyan, you should learn it out loud from. You should learn out from the Torah proper. We know in the Torah proper there is a kinyan. Avram was kind of what the Maris Namachpela from Ephraim says. Tosfos, second Tosfos on the page. Amakra sadas b'kesef yiknu. Hadloi aisim mikra dechsiv gabi Ephraim mishum de dilma hani mili ben nachri shekol kinyane b'kesef. Right, all the kinyanim of a goy is in kesef. So in Mele you would have a raya. We need a raya for Jews. So therefore you can't bring a raya from Ephraim. You bring a raya from Yirmiyahu being kind of from Hanamel. So it's because of Yiknu. Since it says because of a sefer of a chosim in the same pasuk that it says sadas because of Yiknu, it also says that they wrote it down in the shtar. So maybe you need both. It's not enough kesef; you need shtar as well to go ahead and complete the kinyan. It says the Gemara iksev Yiknu labesoif. If it would say sadas bakesef because of a sefer Yiknu, then kidduka armit, then you'd know the Yiknu is going back on kesef and the shtar. But hashtadik siv Yiknu after the sadas, after the kesef, may kora kesef kani. What about the shtar? Because of a sefer of a chasam, shtar raya ba'almahu. Shtar is not part of the kinyan. Shtar is simply a proof that the kinyan transpired. It took place. So therefore, this is our source. So source, interesting. The source of kesef for karka is Yirmiyahu purchasing from his relative Hanamel. Amarav lo shanu, that kesef works. El b'makom shein koisven es a shtar. A place where you don't write a shtar. Aval b'makom shein koisven es a shtar lo kana. In a place where you write a shtar, then the kesef won't work. Let's see Rashi. Like Kana, the kim in the regilim b'hachi, since they were accustomed to writing shtaros, like some chadaite the lekeach adinakit shtar. The lekeach, the purchaser, does not have smichas das until what he has the shtar. The ikadaite liknais al shtarhu. In other words, if he gives money, what's the raya that it's going to stay by him? The lekeach, the one who's paying for it, he needs the shtar. So therefore, the makom shtar kesef doesn't work. In a place they have a custom shtar. Why again? Because the kinyan is samich das that there's a transfer. So I'm giving you the money, Almanas. When he gives him the money, there's no smichas das that he's finishing the deal. Because maybe what the person who knows what to do with the money will revert. It only becomes complete when shtar. So it says like kana in a place where the noig shtar kesef will not work. However, the parish. If you do go ahead and explain, I want kesef to work, then it could be oy kesef oy shtar. Ki had the Rav Idi bar Ravin. He saw an ara when he would buy ara Omar. He'd say the following: Ibrahim b'kaspa ikni. If I want kesef to work, I'll acquire with kesef. Ibrahim b'shtora ikni. If I want the shtar to work, I'll do shtar. We're going to see Rav Idi bar Ravin is covering two bases. Ibrahim b'kaspa ikni. The I b'isu lemeh hadar. If the moicher wants to go ahead and have charata, like matzisu adrisa, he's not able to have charata. In other words, I gave you money. Why do I want to ensure? If I want kesef to be kaina, that if you're going to go, even though this is a place that they write a shtar, but what does the lekeach say? I want to make sure that you can't go back in the deal. So what does he say? It should be kaina kesef. So now you can't go back in the deal. Now, what is shtar for? What does shtar do? Even in shtar ikni, the ibn mahada how do you want to be? And what? And if I want to have charata, the lekeach, then what I have up until what? The shtar. So he's covering both bases. But you see that if you are parish, then it would work. Ubishtar minalon. Again, we know kesef shtar b'chazaka. This is saydis the gemaras. Kesef, you know, from sadis b'kesef yiknu. Where do you know shtar works by what? By mechibas karka. Minalon ilay mishun nechsiv by Yirmiyahu v'chasam b'sefer v'chasam v'ha'edim. The Amit you already told the shtar ayim almahu. This shtar what came after the kinyan of kesef. So that you can't tell me that because of a sefer, it's that shtar is raya b'almahu. Elamei hacha. Also, this is a pasuk by Yirmiyah. It says ve'ekach ha-sefer hamikna, and I took the sefer hamikna as hachosam hamitzvah hachukim as hagoloi. So we say Sefer Mikna, the Sefer, the document Hamikna that went ahead and facilitated a kinyan. So we see shtar works. The kesef, the echas Sefer Mikna. Amash more like shanu el b'shtar matana. Okay, in other words, when the shtar go ahead and conclude a kinyan, that is by a matana. But a shtar mechira that you write, the kinyan will not be concluded at sheyitain damim, says Rashi. Gomar moicher. In other words, by the first case where the lekeach gave the kesef, by lekeach gave the kesef, the shtar he was leaving until he got the shtar. He wasn't samech das on the kesef. Over here, if you write a shtar and you don't give kesef, so it's the moicher, the opposite. The moicher says, "What? I'm writing you a shtar. The property is yours, and then you're not going to give me money." So the seller does not go ahead and complete the kinyan ad the kibbul dam until he gets his cash. The afagav the kibbul damim by shtara, even though if you kabel you still need a shtar. It'll be speaking the case where you were pirish, where the moicha wants to cover himself. Master Ramanuna, bishtar ketzad, kosav le'al niyar on some paper oil acheres. Even though they're not worth a shava pruta, so it doesn't work because kesef. Sadai mechur lecha, sadai nesuna lecha. Hayusem mechur v'nesuna. Right, so to see that what that you're kind of what mechshar mechira even without kesef. So how can you say that what you need kesef? So who ma'aseh b'lavu mefarikla. He Rav Hanuni asked the question, he answered the question. But moicha sedei b'fnei rasa. He's selling the field because it's a lousy field. If you're selling a lousy field, you just want to get rid of it. So even before you get the cash, the shtar will do the job. And that's a PK shlitnala. In other words, when it says over here, mechur nesuna, it's only speaking about one. It's speaking about a shtar matana. It's not speaking about a shtar mechira. A shtar mechira, the meicher is not a gomer das until he gets his cash. Here, when we're seeing that it works even without cash, we're speaking about shtar matana. Shtar matana, there's no cash. Question: why then, if it's a shtar matana, do we use the lashon of mechura? Why do you're saying mechura v'nesuna? So lama kasalei lashon mecher kidei liyapis is koichay. It's the miyap of the koich of what of the mekabel matana. Fellas, if you sell your field and there's a lien on the field, then the lekeach can't take it away. If you give away your field as a matana, right, and the guy loses the field, he takes it away. The bal matana can't have a time on you. Bishlema, the field was taken away. The person who bought it can come back and say, "Listen, you owe me. Matana, you give me matana. You know, I didn't have anything. I don't have anything." So the Kidushin over here is that he wants to be at this koyach, that even if someone takes away the field matana, he's going to go ahead and take achrayas and pay him back. So that's the yipu koyach according to Rashi. Taisa says other pshatim Yerushalmi that when you sell a give a matana, not included in the matana is the bar v'dus. When you go ahead and moicher a field, it doesn't include the bar v'dus. We'll see this in Masech the Baba Basra. But matana, you give ba'an yafe, it would include what yipu koyach. You're going to go ahead and include what you include the bar in as far as the sale of the house. Says the Gemara, Uba Chazaka. Chazaka works. So guys, let's go through it. We know kesef is sadus, but kesef yiknu. We know shtar. It says because of it says the ekach sefer mikna. Where do you know chazaka from? How do you know chazaka works? Amachiskia amakra says again. This is interesting enough. Again, this is all in Yemiyahu. It says ushavu barechem. And you will return to your cities. Asher tefastem, that you would toifus. B'mat tefastem. How will you toifus them? The yeshiva, right? By sitting on them. So it's a chazaka. Rabbi Yishmael Tana, the yeshiva Yishmael, they learn from here. It says a pasuk in the Torah. The yerashtem osav yeshaftem ba. The my yerashtem, how you yerish them? The yeshiva, the act of yeshiva. So Rabbi Yishmael found a biblical source rather than a direct Kabbalah. How do you know that one? Again, Mashiach by Metalfalin. If you sell something lamisecha to what your friend, or acquire something from your friend, something that's nikda, guys, miyad liyad, that's Mashiach, correct? From one miyad to another yad, this is Yisos Mashiach. Right? According to Rabbi Yochanan, right? It's kasha. Our Mishnah says you only acquire metaltalin Mashicha. It's not true. Let Rabbi Yochanan midaraisa, it's kesef. Midaraisa is kesef. So what's pshat Mashicha? Says Gemara, Tana, Atana, Takanta the Rabbanan Katani. Our Tana learned to the Rabbanan. Okay, we've had this many times. Don't you love when I say it many times and you don't remember it? Okay, anyway, this you'll remember, maybe. L'chayra cash is king. If I buy something, okay, so what happens? You say, Rabbi Stern's got these great peaches. I buy these peaches from Rabbi Stern. They're all in bushels. I have them stored away. And Avi Rosenzweig buys them. Okay, late at night, what happens? The fire breaks out in the storage area. Avi Rosenzweig's peaches are there. Rabbi Stern turns around, says, "Oh, great, I got my money. It's Avi Rosenzweig speaking, no problem." So therefore, the Chacham made a takanta. No, until it leaves your rishus, until he's moishachit. So kesef taka would be koine midaraisa. Midrabbanan shemu nisru chatchita b'aliyah, lest the lashon of Chazal is lest your wheat burn down in the attic, to avoid that. So therefore, when it says Mashiach over here, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's speaking about the kinyan that the Rabbanim metaken, that kesef is not enough. That's the. How many of you remember that? 1, 2, Ari, 3. Okay. David, you've been through Shas a few times. Get David. You've been through Shas a few times. Come on. Okay. Anyway. So that's the din of Mashiach. Okay. So let's go over the Mishnah. The Chasim Sheish Nachrais Nikna B'Kesef, Sadis B'Kesef Yiknu, Ubishtar, the Eka Chasefa HaMikneh, Chazaka Yeshiva, either Shavu Lachem V'Arechem, or V'Yirashtem Myself Yeshiva, and Shema Achrayas and Niknel Mashicha is V'Chi Simchu L'Mim Chaim B'Secha, Konim Yam Secha, Dav Niknel B'Yad B'Yad. Now the next din is the Chashen Achrayas, is what's called a Kinyan Agav. Again, just to reiterate, you're buying two things or being kind of two things into the same individual. It's a Kinyan Karka and a Kinyan, there's a Metaltalin, even though Metaltalin does not cast of Shtar Chazaka work for Metaltalin. If you're kind of you can be kind of the Metaltalin Agav the Karka. You can be kind of the Metaltalin Agav the Karka. Minolan, what do you know? Not immediately, how do you know? Amachizkiya, Amakra, the Yitalim Aviem, and it says that their father gave them matanos rabbis, many matanos, lekesef ulezav ulemigdanos, silver, gold, delicacies, im orei mitzurais b'Yehuda, along with the fortified cities in Yehuda. So they're getting metaltalin in the fortified cities. Mashma, the metaltalin is coming agav the fortified cities. So this is the source for Kinyan Agav. Okay, this is going to take us to the rest of the daf and Motzei Shabbos' daf. Okay, so what's the story? When you make a Kinyan Agav, do you need the metaltalin on top of the karka, or it can be two separate places? Do you need Siburun and Alay? Okay, do you need it there or not? That's the kasha. And again, it's going to be the next Amr and a half. Says the Gemara, Amr of Yosef Toshma, Rabbi Akiva Omer, karka kol shehu. Chayeves bepeya will be kurin on the base. Karka kol shehu is chayev bepeya bikurin. No matter how small it is, you chayev to leave peya. You chayev to mafish bikurin. The lift the boleh prusbol again. A halva has to be insured by a loan. A prusbol works by derech, that something that's shayach, that a person will have a loan that is backed up by land. So even if it's a small piece of land, you can write a prusbul on it. Again, prusbul is hills takana, that shmita should not be mishamed alone. But liknos ima nechasim she'elam achrayas. And what do we need? We need this last din. A small karka kol shehu could acquire what? A kinyan agav. Now, if it's what's the kasha, guys? Well, what's the raya? L'chayr, if it's a karka kol shehu, why is it possible to go ahead and place on a small piece of karka that's worth it? Says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me you need that the metaltalin have to be munach on the karka, right? It's kolshu l'may chasi. What could you use it for, right? It doesn't make sense. It's not. So it must be, fellas, what? You don't need siburin. That this little piece of karka can be kind of a massive amount of metaltalin. Says no. Shmuel by Bisna. I'll tell you what. Right? Kamed Rabbi Yosef. Guess what? You're being kind of the needle. In other words, I'm buying a little piece of land, and I'm buying a needle, and you don't need to make a kinyan of hagbah on the needle. Just take the needle, put it in the land, and now the land which you acquire with kesef shtar v'chazaka, despite the fact it's tiny in size, you'll be koina what a machat. So therefore, maybe you do need tziburin, and the machat is sabur on the land. So this is what Rav Shmuel this is said in front of Rabbi Yosef, and Rabbi Yosef, kivastan, he said, "You're paining me." Rashi says, "Sa'arteni, you're paining me." The Torah is going to have his way to explain the kind of needle. So I'm Rashi, why not? Maybe you know what's hanging on that needle? Some precious gems that is worth a fortune. So don't think that needle's not worth anything. Ken Zayin, I want to go ahead and be machna to you this expensive jewelry. I have this little piece of karka. There's a machat that's hanging, and suspended from the machat is this expensive jewelry. So you have no raya that you don't need siburin. Good. Let's try again. Tashma. Amr Avalaza. Ma'isa b'midoini echad. There was a ma'isa of a person displaced midoini. Shahoy with madoin. Shahoy b'Yushalayim. Shahoy l'metaltlin harbe. He had a lot of metaltlin. Ubike shlitnam b'matana, and he decided to give it matana to an individual. So Amalai told the individual, listen. They told him, the Chachamim told him, you want to give it to this individual? You have no resort, ella to be makna him, right? Al gabi karka. Nobody's going to ask, why don't you use Mashicha? Why don't you use what? Chalipin? There are other ways that you can go ahead and be Makaya Karka. Like, guys, Ein Takana means the only way is Agav. 1 second. It's speaking about Metaltalin. Do Mashicha, do Chalipin. You know, what is going to ask them? But right now, they told him the only way for you to be Makna, this Metaltalin Harbe, to a person is through Agav Karka. Ma'asa, what did he do? Halach v'lokach beis sela. He went ahead and he purchased a beis sela echad. Rashi has a guess echad. Ukasal kedaitach karka mole roichiv sela, a karka that was the size of a sela coin. Shehumateya lishnachrina sela mamish shugavoya v'chadud. It's like a rock. It's high and sharp. Ve'in lahamid love soin v'chavias, and you're not able to put anything on top of it. It's like a rock. The bottom line is there's either because of its size or because of its topography, you won't be able to put metaltalin on it, right? Now you see which way it's going over here. So obviously it must be you don't need tziburin, because in this case you can't do tziburin, either because of the size or the topography, it won't hold this karka, this metaltalin, says the Gemara. So what do you go? For Amar, the north part of this land goes to the Pliny. The Imai, and with this north part of the land goes Meyat Soin, 100 flock, Umeyat Chavias, and 100 barrels of wine, Umeis, and he died. The Kaimo Estavarov, and we kept his words. The Amit Be'inin Siburin Ba Beisela Lamai Chazia. And here you're talking about what? 100 barrels of wine, 100 flock. You need a shtik karka for that, right? So l'chayra, you have a right. You don't need tziburin. Fred Gemara, misavis base sela mamish, like the havamina, that's the size of a sela or pointed. My sela, the nafish tuva. It was very, very big property. But my korele sela, the kashik is sela, because it wasn't able to be cultivated, because it was hard like rocks. So ein nachinami, you do need siburin. Why? And the seller here means a large expanse of land, which you could go ahead and fit 100 barrels of wine and 100 flock. Why is it called seller? Because it's difficult to cultivate like a rock. So you have no raya. So again, in our quest, a beautiful quest in truth, since I could always learn this pshat, a machat suspended with what? With jewelry, or a seller, I don't have a raya that you don't need siburin. Toshma, Dam Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rabbi, Ma'isa be'echad, ba'adam echad, shechala b'Yushalayim, and Rabbi Lazar. Now Rabbi Lazar holds, Rashi brings, that you don't say divrei shivim ra kiksuvim u'chusum dami. You don't say that you need a kinyan. So now Ma'isa ba'adam echad, shechala b'Yushalayim, is a shchiv meira, Rabbi Lazar. That means that we don't say divrei shivim ra kiksuvim u'chusum dami. The Imrila Bari, and other people say it was a Bari, Kirabanon, right? And therefore you would need a Kinyan. Either way, if it was Schoil like Rabbi Elazar, you need a Kinyan, or he's Bari, and everyone says you need a Kinyan. Shahoyelay Metaltalin Harbe, he had a lot of Metaltalin, Ubikish Litnam Bimatana, and he wanted to give it as a present. So Amullah, they told him, Ainle Takana, at Shayakne Magabe Karka. Again, the same thing they told the first guy. So what did he do? Halach V'lacha Beis Roiva, Samach Yerushalayim. He went ahead and purchased a piece of ground Beis Roiva next to Yerushalayim. V'amar Tefach al Tefach Leploini. Of this Beis Roiva, a Tefach al Tefach, guys, that is a tiny piece of land, right? A Tefach al Tefach Leploini. The Imoi Meyat Sain Meyat Chavias. Now you can't go ahead and say that, wow, there was a big expanse of land. They're saying, Mamish, it's a tiny piece of land, right? And on this tiny piece of land, I'm giving what? Agav, I'm giving Meya, Soin and Meya Chavias. So obviously you don't need Siburin. Umeis, and he died. The Kaima Chacham Mestavarav. The Amepinin Siburin, Tefal Tevach Lamai Chaza. Okay, so the you have a raya that what? That you don't need Siburin. Says Gemara, we're not speaking about 100 flock or 100 chavias. We're speaking about the demei. We're speaking about the coins that could purchase 100 flock and 100. Right. So what does that mean, fellas? That you could be makna agav karka. That you could be makna agav karka. Right? Why? Because it's coins. It says the Gemara Hachinami Mistabra to say it's speaking about the coins. Then nikninu nele bechalipin. Why would you have to? They said einle takana. Einle takana means this is the only possible way for it to work. Right? Says the Gemara, if it's speaking about mamish sign and mamish karka, you have other ways to be kaina, such as what? Such as chalipin. Now chalipin, if it's speaking about coins, would not work. Ein batbeya nikne bechalipin. Guys, this is also your site from Perek Hazav. Ein matbeya nikne bechalipin. So Mamela, it would make sense it's speaking about coins when the Chum said the only takana you have is agav, because you can't go ahead and do chalipin. Velamai lidemei. So he's saying, okay, it's a raya brewer that's speaking lidemei. I have another eitzah. Nikninu v'nehalei b'mishicha. So good, it doesn't work chalipin, but you have another eitzah. What do you mean in lecha takana? Go ahead, what, and be makna it, be koine it with what? With Mashicha. Take the money and pull it into your rishus. Elamah, it must be so. What's your right that it's speaking to the may? What do you have to say? The less makabel matana. The makabel matana wasn't there. Einle takana. Logistically, had he been there, you could have gone ahead and done Mashicha, but he wasn't there, and therefore what? He wasn't there. Hakanami the less makabel matana, and therefore he wasn't there. And therefore, in letakona ela agav. Says the Gemara, the skin in LA agav acher. Let another person do what? Mashicha. Why do you in letakona ela agav kinyan karka? Maybe go ahead. What? Give him mashicha. You want to give again, fellas? He didn't want the karka. He bought the karka for the reason just to facilitate a kinyan. So again, so the good, he's not there to do mashicha, which would have gone ahead and precluded that we wouldn't need the karka. So go ahead and give it to someone else. So the other person do mashicha. Says the Gemara some chadaita. Then there's no smichas das, right? Because the one who gives it, Sava Shamit for Achalai, is gonna. I want to give it to Harry, and I give it to Reuven. Reuven somehow, since it's matana, he's going to slip away and get it. Then in other words, my ein lecha takana. Let's see Rashi. What does it mean ein lecha takana? In other words, guys, the reason he's not doing it is not because physically it wouldn't work. It's because he is worried. When it says ein lecha takana, it means the only possible kinyan is agav. Over here, that's not the only possible kinyan. Mashicha al yedei acher would be a good kinyan if he would agree to it, says Rashi. Hayachal zakas al yedei acher. He could acherim if he wanted to in yirtzeh. So there, the lashon of ein le takana el bezu is not correct, right? Ein le takana el bezu is not correct, right? Says the Gemara, ein le takana hachikama lemay de le samcha daite. According to you, not Slemich Das. In other words, if you were Slemich Das and Nachinami, you could give Mashiach to another guy, be Mizaka through another guy. Correct? That's right? Right? Go ahead and give it. Let someone else be mizaka for you. Says Gemara. It's speaking about you're not slamich das by giving to this guy that it's going to get to the kalumatona, that the address that you wanted to get to. So according to you, the loisam chadaite ein lechatana achiaknim al gabe karka. Einachinami for another guy who would be slamich das. We have another eitzah besides karka, right? But mashen came you who's not slamich das. The only takana you have is kinyan agav. So we weren't pushed to the shaila yet. Do you need tzibur or not? There's Hashem will do that Motzei Shabbos. Everyone should have a great Shabbos, and thank you all for listening.